It's Parshas Chayesora, Tovshin Pei Daled. This shir is actually a sequel to the shir from last week. If you remember last week, we spoke about the forecast of the Chofetz Chaim, which Reb Elia Lapian had said. Chofetz Chaim had said there will be 3 wars of Gog and Magog. And the last one, he explained, would be an Eis Tzora LeYaakov, a time of difficulty and stress for Klal Yisrael, which is really what we're going through at the moment. And then the Chofetz Chaim said, Umimenu Yivashea, but from there they will be saved. And then we mentioned Rebbe Chonan, who had said, as Rebbe Chonan Wasserman had explained, that Rak ha-maskil be'eis hazois, only a thinking, sensitive person at such a time, Yidoim Yitkoinein, should be quiet and quietly prepare, b'hachonos harbe, in great preparation. Maybe such a person will be zocher to see the Nechama, meaning Yemos HaMashiach and Binyan Beis HaMikdash. Those are the words of Rebbe Chonan. And we explained that the definition of a maskil is somebody who has successfully thought out. He understands that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is running the world. Remember, we also brought down from the Navi Yeshaya, B'Shama Lo Yoshuv. The rain and the snow do not go back, but certainly the bracha and the tefillah and the Torah, which one does. And that really is the cycle of prosperity and benevolence and welfare from Shemaim. We send Ruchnias and Hashem sends Gashmias. And that's the way. And then we mentioned at the end the famous prognosis of Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital had said in the times of the Rishonim, like Rashi and the Rambam, that the main avodah was certainly avodah of Torah, and Torah was the main essence of their lives. But then Reb Chaim Vital said, in the times of Iksa the Mashiach, in the times of Cheblei Mashiach, which we're going through now, he said that there will be something, the preeminence would be of Tefillah. Tefillah would almost take over. We asked the question, of course, Pinchas brought out, but Talmud Torah connected Kulam. Certainly Torah is more important than Tefillah. And he explained that it's something like Shofar on Rosh Hashanah. If a person decides on Rosh Hashanah, for example, to sit and learn the whole day long and doesn't hear the Shofar, he's negligent, because the Torah obligates him, the mitzvahs hayom. The day itself is a day of Shofar, and therefore the mitzvahs hayom are the mitzvah of Shofar. You can't neglect that. You have to, of course, Talmud Torah is important as well. But at the same time, it's the mitzvahs hayom. Finger on the pulse, want to feel, understand the mitzvah of Shofar. Similarly, we brought down, as by way of an analogy, the same way is by Ikvus of the Mashiach. Of course, Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. Torah is very important. But there's something very real and something very special, which is the spirit of the day which we're going through now. Meaning, the times which we're going through now is one has to turn to Tefillah. And Tefillah is the main avodah. Remember, we mentioned also in Perek 124 of Tehillim, Ezreinu b'Shem Hashem, Oiseh Shamayim Ba'aretz. At the end of that Perek, which talks about Lulei Hashem Shohel and Bukum Aleim Odom, the Pera Odom, which is Yishmoel, Klal Yisrael must turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that is the real help, the Yeshua. This Perek turns and brings an example from Tehillim, from David HaMelech, of Perek 142, Kuf Mem Beis. Kuf Mem Beis is Maskil David B'Yosa B'Amor Tefillah. When David was inside the cave, he turned and realized the importance of davening. In order to really take out all the momentum of this shir, what I'd like to do is give a little bit of a background so we can understand maybe a bit of a portrait. Who was David HaMelech and what was he going through when he said this Perek? We have to really begin from the time when he had killed Goliath, David, and he became famous as a famous warrior. He killed the giant of the Plishtim. But after that, he never gained any of the prestige of the valiant warrior. What happened was he then had to go on the run as a fugitive, running away from Shaul, who was trying to kill him. And he was in tremendous mortal danger. Even though he had reached tremendous fame in Eretz Yisrael, but he had to run away because Shaul had tried to assassinate him and kill him. And what happened was there was a banquet of Rosh Chodesh, which David was supposed to come and play music at the banquet. And he was scared, since he was aware that Shaul wanted to kill him. He asked Yonasan, his friend, to go in and sit at the banquet and test the mood of his father to see how the land lies. Yonasan went in. As we know, Shaul was very angry that David hadn't turned up, and he swore at Yonasan. And Yonasan realized that certainly his father was still angry with him. And he had made a pact with David that he would then come out into the field and shoot arrows. And the Pasuk says, if the arrows went beyond a certain rock, it was a sign for David that he must run away. If the arrows were in front of the rock, then certainly David could come closer. And Yonasan shot the arrows beyond the rock, and immediately he realized he was in tremendous danger. And they met, they said goodbye to each other, and David had to run away. He ran away from Yerushalayim to a place called Noiv. Noiv was Ir HaKohanim, a place where all the Kohanim lived. When he actually arrived arrived there, he was in a situation of bulmus. Bulmus means about to die of starvation. Yonasan had forgotten to give him tzeder derech, food on the way. And from there we know the important mitzvah of always giving somebody food when they leave your house, certainly when they travel away somewhere. Should give tzeder, and he forgot to give that Yonasan. David didn't give him, and as a result, when David arrived in the Nov, which was the Ir HaKohanim, out of no choice, even though he wasn't a Kohen, he ate from the lechem haponim, from the food of the Kohanim. It's pikuach nefesh. He had no choice. He had to eat from there, and he stayed there in Nov. And then what happened was that Doeg, who was the Av Beis Din, saw David there and reported back to Shaul where David was. Immediately David had to run away from Nov, and he ran away to a place called Gat, which is by the petition, which is by Aza, which we know today. He went and stayed there, and he lived there for a certain amount of time until Achish Melech Gat discovered that this was the man who had killed his famous warrior Goliath. So he organized to kill David, and the only way David escaped from there was that he pretended to be a Meshugana. He dribbled from the mouth, he wrote on the wall, and he made himself look an absolute fool. It so happened that Achish Melech Gad had a wife and a daughter who was also Meshuga. And he turned around and said, Chasam Meshugoim, I need any more Meshugoim. And he left David alone, and David was able to escape from there. He ran away from Gat. After that, I just want to trace the steps. All these are in Shmuel Aleph, the beginning of Shmuel Aleph. He then went to a place called Me'oras Hadulam, the caves of Adulam. He was on the run, he was a fugitive. And there the Pasuk says he looked after 400 Metzukei Lev, 400 people who were broken, who had no mazel in their life, who were broken, had no money, had no nachas, no family, no parnosa, nothing to do, nothing at all. And he looked after like a father figure, such a beautiful portrait, a caring person. He looked after all these 400 people, and Metzukele, people who had no success or no happiness in his life. Shaul knew where he was, then he had to run away from there, and he ran away to a place called Mitzpeh Moav, where actually he put his parents there, and the parents stayed there, and then the parents were killed there. There was a certain subterfuge there, and he ran away from there to a place called Ya'ar Cheres, the forest of clay. The forest of clay, as you know, nothing grows in clay. Clay is barren. There was no vegetation, no protection for him, nothing at all. And he had nothing at all. From there we have Rabbi Yisai, the most beautiful poet perhaps in Tehillim. Hashem roi lo echsa binosteshe yarbitzeini nafshi yeshoyve v'yanchein afilu begeitz hamobes lo ira kiatom. Such a beautiful poet of Dveikus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Even though he had nothing, he wasn't hallucinating there, but he felt as if I was by lush pastures and water and a beautiful scene of tranquility. But he wasn't tranquil. But because of his bitochen, he had tremendous tranquility. And Yonasan actually found him there and brought him food and looked after him. Yonasan made it fine. Shaul was running after him with 3,000 soldiers. He then ran away from there and went to a place called Ke'ilah. Ke'ilah was a city that was being attacked by the Plishtim. He saved them, and then they reported straight back to Shaul. Unbelievable betrayal that they went back and told Shaul where he was, and he had to run away from there. If you look in the life of David, there were so many scenes where people who were close with him who betrayed him. Doeg, Achitophel, also his son Avshalom, and people of Keilah, and continually he was being betrayed by people. He went from Ke'ilah and ran away to a place called Midbar Tziv and Midbar Moan. There were two mountains which were there. He escaped. One of those scenes, I remember reading it in Shmuel Aleph, it was almost like cat and mouse. David was on one side of the mountain, he was running on the other side of the mountain. He was in tremendous mortal danger. He then darted down to the Yam HaMelech, and by Ein Gedi he ran inside a cave. And here we have this perek. This is the perek of this perek Kufman base. I suggest actually in this year, if you take out a Tehillim, this year is quite textual. I'm going to go through the Psukim Hashem and show you different limudim from the perek. And this is where we have the perek. Maskil Adov Bihiyosa Bam Ora. When he was inside the cave Tefillah, he realized the importance of Tefillah. He realized what the value of Tefillah was. What actually happened was David had gone inside the cave, and as soon as he was inside the cave, a spider came and made a web right in front of the cave, so it was clear there was no one else in there. Shaul then came inside to relieve himself, and Shaul was on one side of the spider's web, and David was on the other. And then David said, in reality, there's nothing more than helps a person than prayer. Meaning, in reality, the irony of the situation. Shaul thinks I'm at his mercy, but in reality, he's at my mercy. I could actually kill him. And he said, even though he has all the king's horses and all the king's men, he has everybody with him, but nevertheless, he's really at my mercy as well. And David made this beautiful statement. At the end of the day, nothing helps a person but the koach of tefillah, the power of a person's prayer that he has. And that is the great support and the buttress that David had. He realized prayer will help him above all. The Medrash brings down on this pasuk such a beautiful pasuk from Mishlei in Perek Yud Ches. Migdal Ois, Shem Hashem, Bo Yorutz Tzadik V'Niskov. Shem Hashem, meaning tefillah, is a tower of strength, and the tzaddik runs to it and he's uplifted, he's elevated, he's inspired. And that's what he meant. The koyach of tefillah lifted him up and inspired him. Migdal Oz, a tower of strength, v'yorot tzaddik b'niska. He's saved from there. And we see here, from this situation here, in this pasuk, we learn the enormous profundity that there is in prayer. What prayer is the support for a person. That's the great support that he had. In reality, we know for sure, Chazal learn out this beautiful Rashi by Kriyas Yam Suf. When Klal Yisrael came to the Yam Suf, Topsu umnus aboisam, they snatched and grasped the profession and the expertise of the Abbas HaKadoshim. And we know for sure Yitzchak and Rivka, Eliezer, Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov, the koyach of prayer. And that was the phenomenal koyach which David realized. He snatched also the umnus, the profession, the expertise of prayer, and he davened there inside the cave. I think it's phenomenal if you think about the circumstances. David was in mortal danger, and outside the cave there were 3,000 soldiers looking to kill him, and these words were composed inside the cave behind the spider's web. That's an incredible situation here. Unbelievable calm and ability to compose such a beautiful perek of prayer inside, while he was inside the cave. The pasuk says, inside the cave he composed it. There is actually a beautiful medrash, and the medrash brings round just an interesting point. That David once complained to the Almighty and said as follows: I don't understand why you created insects and creepy crawlers, and also why people have to be meshuga, why you have to have it. What's the need in the bria? And Bnei Shem turned around and said, you'll see one day you yourself will be so dependent on it. He escaped from Gat because he beheaded meshuga. There was a need for that. He managed to escape because of that, and certainly the spider made the web for him. And therefore he saw himself that everything in the world has a purpose to it, and there's a need for it, even though he himself didn't realize at the time. But the limit that we take out of this first pasuk is the enormous reserves of gevurah which a person gets. It lifts him up. A tower of strength, a migdal ois, and that's what David said. Inside the cave, I have my tefillah, I have my prayer, even though everything else seems to be abandoned and I have no support system, but I have the Ribono Shel Olam. My tower of strength comes from the Almighty, and that's what he was saying here. Shaul was inside the cave relieving himself and the 3,000 soldiers outside, and he stood there and made this beautiful composition of prayer. What I'd like to try and do in this shir is to try and bring for you all the different points which come out from the shir. But before we go through it, I'd like to give you a point of introduction which we see in the commentary of the Sipono on this perek. The Sipono says, David inside the cave was certainly a fugitive, and he was desperate and on the run from Shaul. But at the same time, he felt the pulse of Klal Yisrael, a Ruach HaKodesh, of the Ikvus of the Mashiach, the times that we're going through now. In other words, it was a realistic scene that he went through, but at the same time, the mood and all the implications and all the inferences that we learn from the perek was actually also a prophecy of David of what Klal Yisrael will go through in the times which we're going through now, as Chofetz Chaim as Eis Torah LeYaakov, and this is the prayer which is made. And therefore, there's tremendous relevance of this perek to the times which we're actually going through now. We are, as such, bima oil. We're inside the cave, in the Klal Yisrael in times of Ikvus of the Mashiach, in a similar situation. David sensed that, and therefore, the points which we're going to bring out, Bezrat Hashem, in this shir, are very relevant to the times that we're going through after the war in Simchas Torah and everything that's going on in Klal Yisrael, and the enormous anti-Semitism which is going on around the world. And Klal Yisrael is an Eis Torah LeYaakov. But remember the words, Mimenu Yivasher, from there they will be saved. And the Chofetz Chaim and the Rebbe Chanan mentioned, Vakam Maskal Beis Hazayis. Only a thinking, sensitive person. The Vilna Gaon mentions in Mishlei, the meaning of the word Maskal is someone who successfully thinks things out. He has siyata dishmai. He has divine assistance in the way he's thinking. And that's the beauty of this perek. David inside the cave sensed our own predicament that we're in, and that's the limudim which will come out. Out of these 8 sentences which we have, there are rules and guidelines for prayer during the time of the Cheblei Mashiach. And that's what I'd like to bring out to you. Let's go to Pasuk Beis. Koili el Hashem ezok. Koili el Hashem eschanon. My voice is to Hashem. I will cry out. I will zok. I will scream out. Koili el Hashem eschanon. I will call out to Hashem and I will beg for rachamim and grace and favor. Look carefully, Rabbi say, how direct, how accurate, how precise the words are. Koili el Hashem is like the bullseye. He hit the target. Koili el Hashem, straight on, straight on. directly to the Kisei HaKavod. No diversion, no distraction. It was clear, directly where the prayer was going straight to the Rebbeinu Shalom. And that is the tremendous maila of David. The tremendous success of David is that in his prayers, and we see this in Tehillim, there was always a direct focus. He was on the mark. He hit the point. Koili El Hashem, directly to the Kisei HaKavod. Nothing else. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not distracted. I'm not disturbed by anything else. My prayer is my basis now. My umnus, my profession, my expertise is prayer. And that's what we see from this posuk here. The direct accuracy and the precision of it. I remember once hearing that Rav Hutner, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, had once asked a beautiful question about Tehillim. In reality, the singular of Tehillim is Tehillah, and therefore it should really be called Sefer Tehillos. Why is it called Sefer Tehillim? And he explained as follows. If you take, for example, Rav Hutner said, a yad, a hand. If you put out many hands, you have eser yadas, 10 hands. But supposing you put 2 hands out, and you put 2 together. 2 is a set. Yadayim, masculine plural, means the set of it. It should really be Tehillos. But if you have the set, meaning, said Rav Hutner, the complete compilation of everything there is in prayer, that's why it's called Tehillim, because everything you need to say in prayer is all in Sefer Tehillim. Such a beautiful point. And that's why it's Tehillim. Tehillim means masculine plural, you have the set. It should be really Tehillos. But like Yodayim, so Tehillim. Tehillim means masculine plural. All that you need to know in prayer is all in this payment, which is a beautiful thought. But the point we're bringing out here is that his ability to be so clear, to be so focused in his prayer. Maybe that's the meaning when we say, Ani man bi lo labado ro'yu lehispalel, ve'inu ro'yu lehispalel lezulosa. He is the right address to daven to, and that's the secret which David had. Directly to the point of where we have to go in the prayer. There is an expression which the Chofetz Chaim brings out in Hilchos Tefillah, in Siman Tzadik Ches and Shulchan Aruch, when it comes to Hilchos Kavana. Chofetz Chaim mentions as follows. What does it mean to have Kavana? V'yosim el libai, and you shall put in your heart, she'ein biad shum odom malach or mazul or koichab lemalas she'elosoi ki imutzonai mishpach. There's no one else. There's no other medium, no other lucky star, no other man, no other person. I have no protector at all, except the Rebbeinu Shalom. Meaning, don't look at Uncle Charlie, I have protects here, I have connections. When you daven, you must be straight and accurate, directly to the source, meaning there's nothing else. And that's what David is. Koili El Hashem, directly to the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's the point he's making here. And it's so focused, it's so penetrating, the point here. The beautiful expression which was once made by, I saw in the Sefer Sha'orim B'Tfilah, by our Pinkus, explains as follows. Do you remember when Yaakov gave Yosef Shechem, and he said as follows to him, I attained Shechem from Esav, b'charbi u'bekashti, with my sword and with my bow. What does it mean? We never find that Yaakov went to war with Esav to get Shechem. What does it mean with my sword and with my bow? And the Targum explains, B'tzla'usi u'ba'usi, with my prayer and with my request. In other words, the moshel, the parable of the prayer is a sword and a bow. It really refers to the prayer. In other words, Yaakov davened for Shechem. But why does it say my sword and my bow? And Pinkus explained as follows. The meaning is as follows. If you know the expertise and the skill of being a swordsman or an archer, you hit the bullseye, you hit the point. Meaning the focus is direct to the point. There's a beautiful Gemara brings out in Sanhedrin that when Cain killed Hevel, he stabbed him many, many times because he didn't know where the neshama came out from. And similarly we find when Avner put his spear back in Asahel and killed him under the 5th rib, one blow, one shot. Cain didn't know where, but Avner did. In other words, one blow is enough, one shot. And therefore, we learn here, not necessarily, we brought it out in previous shurim, is the length so important. Focus is the criteria. Focus is crucial. Once you're focused, you don't have to spend so long in prayer, in reality. Koili El Hashem, direct. If you hit the point straight off, then you're there. You hit the point. And that's the nukuda here. If you can be a swordsman, a marksman, and hit the target straight off, Koili El Hashem is direct. He's hitting the point straight away. And that's the skill which one needs to have. Time is not the most important thing. Time is optional, it's discretionary. But when it comes to davening, focus is the most important of all. I remember when I was in Gateshead Yeshiva, and remember the Rosh Yeshiva there, Hagon Rebleib Gurovitz, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, if I can say it. I think he was probably one of the first to finish. I remember also Rav Eliashiv in the Minyan. I used to daven there in Meir Shoim, Zichronim Livracha, these great tzaddikim. He didn't take so long. He knew what he was doing. He had the skill. I remember I davened for years with Moshe Shmuel Shapiro, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the Rosh Yeshiva Be'er Yaakov in Har Nof. He didn't take so long. He knew what he was doing. He was skilled. He was an expert. And therefore, if you are marking the point and you hit the bullseye, that's enough. And that's the point which we learn here. And therefore, the limud, the lesson which we take out of this posuk base, is the accuracy and the focus of prayer. There is a beautiful perush on Tehillim. I don't know if you can ever find it. It's called the Maharitz, Rabbi Yosef Tzvi Dushinsky on Tehillim. I actually have quite a story about that sefer. I remember I was asked when I was living in Hanof to give a series of shirim on Tehillim. We went through most of Tehillim together. And I went inside a store, a Moiches Svarim in Meir Shorim. I remember the name of the person. It was a Per HaTorah, and it was someone called Shmuel Volner was behind the counter. And I put my hand on the books and I said, can you help me out with a sefer on Tehillim, a good perush? He said, lift up your right hand. Underneath your right hand is a beautiful perush on Tehillim. And it was a Maharitz, and I bought the sefer from him, and I used it all the time. Beautiful sefer. I think 2 or 3 weeks later, Nebuch, Reb Shmuel was killed on the number 2 bus. I remember in Meir Shoim, he was killed on that bus. But that perush, Hashem Yimkom Domai, I remember such a beautiful perush. The Maharitz says as follows. He was the guy of the Av Beis Din of the Eid HaCharedis in Yerushalayim. He commented on this posuk. Why do we have 2 expressions? Koil Hashem Ezok, Koil Hashem Eschan. Why the 2 expressions? And he explained as follows. Zo'oka is a legitimate claim in court. I'm correct, I'm right. Shaul here is pursuing me. He has no right. I haven't done anything wrong. In reality, I could kill him. Someone who comes to kill you, you can rise up and kill him. I have a right. In din, I have a taina against him. That's in din, in court, in a matter of law, in a matter of judgment. Koil Eschanon, though, is a tzaddik always asks for matnas chinam, for eschanan, matnas chinam. A tzaddik asks for something, for matana, for grace from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And those are the 2 points behind it. Mitzad adin, I'm correct, and also I'm asking for rachamim Hashem. Those are the 2 points, the 2 arrows which David thrust in this part. The two points. One is the oka, and one is eschanam. The Vilna Gaon makes a beautiful point on this pasuk. It doesn't say the word oimer, to say, nor does it say the word diber, to speak. Koil is like a squeak. A scream. Koili is like a scream, a screech out. I screamed out to Hashem. You don't have to talk so much, just the voice. I'm turning to you, Hashem. Koili el Hashem means a scream to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Help! A scream out. That's enough. That's enough like that. And that's the power, precise, right to the point, right to the Kisei HaKavod. Pasuk Gimel. Eshvoich lefonov sichi. I will pour out to him my conversation. My problems and my difficulties I will tell him about. Look carefully at this sentence here. It's interesting that the words which are used, the word sicha is a conversation. The word lahagid is, and what's lahagid lecha mashu? Lahagid is something current, and a conversation is also something current. The meaning is as follows. There's a beautiful comment of the Malbim. The mitzvah on the night of the 15th of Nisan is called Sipur Yetzias Mitzrayim, telling about the going out of Mitzrayim. But in reality, the book is called the Haggadah. Why do you call it the Haggadah? And the answer is, says the Malbim, as follows. Sipur means a story, an old story, which you might know about. I'm telling you a story which you might have known about. Haggadah means I want to tell it in a certain way. If you tell the story about Yetzias Mitzrayim like an old story, the children will fall asleep at the table and they won't pay any attention. I will tzarich lagid mashu, as if it's current, as if it's alive. And that's why it's called the Haggadah. Hashamayim mesaprim kavod keil, u'masa yodov magid horakia. Meaning, Hashamayim, the heavens have been there for years and years. There's no change. Hashamayim mesaprim. Masa yodov horakia, the sky is today's weather. Lahagid. Lahagid is something current. And therefore, David is teaching us here, when it comes to davening, you must talk about problems that you have now. I'm scared of the Arabs, I'm scared of the Hamas, I'm concerned what will happen. You're allowed to say you're scared, you're allowed to express your fears. That's what prayer is. I'm expressing my worries. I need help, I need guarantee, I need a shmirah, I need protection. I'm asking you for help. We hear in Eretz Yisrael, people are very wary what's going on. And I hear also in London, in different places as well, of all the Muslims. I'm scared, HaKadosh Baruch. You can tell him, what's happening in my life now? I'm concerned. The person's looking for a shidduch. I'm asking you now the situations which I'm in. Someone in my family needs a Yeshua, someone might be sick. I'm telling you of my situation now. And that's the role of prayer. Prayer is an ongoing, is a sicha, a conversation which is happening to me at the moment. And that's the secret which David is telling us here. There is a beautiful maimah of the Alter from Kelm in Chochmah Musa, and he explained as follows. Such a beautiful point, but once you get this point, you understand fully what the lesson of this sentence is. Tefillah is supposed to be a conversation. He said as follows: HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Boirei, and I am the Nivra. He is the creator, I am the one who's created. And therefore I say, Adon Olam, Hashem Molach. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Yotzer, and I am the Noitzer. He formed, and therefore Asher Yotzer Sodom. I say the Baruch Asher Yotzer Sodom. The Yachas, this is a conversation, the relationship which I have. I'm expressing the relationship. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Noisein, and I am the Makabel. And therefore I say, Hu Noisein Lechem L'chol Basar. Ha-Noisein. I express in the relationship, what is the relationship? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Noifei Chaim. He breathes life. And therefore I say, Elokai Neshama Shonafachto Bi. It's always like that. The connection is made. The Yachas, says the Alter. And Tefillah is really expressing the Yachas. I am the Yingel and I am the Eved. And therefore I say, Ovinu Malkeinu. It's clear. The Yachas is there. And that's what we're doing. In the conversation I explained, it's you. I'm looking to you and I'm turning to you. I'm asking you, Ovinu Malkeinu. I am the Yingel, I am the young child, I am the Eved. And you are Ovinu Malkeinu. The Yachas is here. But what's happening to me now is really the conversation which I'm talking about here. And that's the lesson which we learn from Pasuk Beis. Pasuk Gimel, Pasuk Daled. B'hisatef alai buchi. When I am complete, atuf means like wrapped up, covered over in despondency, in great worry. My spirit is wrapped up. And you know the derech, the path which I'm choosing. In this path I will go. Tomnu pachli, but I've been overcome and I've been hidden by a trap. I'm overcome by the trap. Let's look at this sentence again, try and understand what lesson is David HaMelech teaching us here, which is so relevant to our times. Atuf, kuf beis intin, tefillah la'oni ki yatov. Yatov means I'm sitting in a corner, I'm covered up, I'm drowned in my difficulties. I have great difficulties. I'm worried about it. But you know what's going on with me. And that really is the tremendous situation which we have in prayer. You're there. It's not a hidden agenda here. It's not HaKadosh. He knows exactly. He knows I am being pursued and Shaul is trying to... You know what I'm up to here. You know what my situation is. You know my predicament here. But I'm in a pach. I'm in a pach. What can I do? I'm in a trap here. I'm caught out here. It's so relevant to us in our times as well, Rabbi Isai. In the times of Golos Yishmael, the problems we have with Hamas and all the terrorists. I'm in a pach. A pach means a trap. If you remember, we said in Perek 124, Kuf Kaf Dim, when we learned through the Perek, Nafshenu kitzipa nimnota mi pach hayokshim. Our lives are like a bird who is caught by the hunter's trap, and the trap is attached to me, but the trap, hapach nishma, the trap will snap, and I will be saved. And we will be saved. It's a pach. The trap is, you can't talk to them, you can't negotiate. How can you talk to them when they take so many hostages and kidnap so many people? It's a trap. It's a dead end. What can I do? I'm caught in a situation. That is the nature of Ikus at the Mashiach, and that is the nature of the Golos Yishmael that we're going through at the moment. It's a pach. Pach means, what can I do? I talk in priests, but they come to me in war. What can I do? How can I help them? We gave so much to these people in Gaza, the utilities, the facilities, the water, the electricity. I give them everything and they come to me with war. That's the situation. It's a pach. But the pach nishba, and that's what David is expressing here. Our situation is like that. That's the nature, meaning it looks very glim, but the rule is, you know my path. You know what I'm going through. You know the difficulties that I'm going through here. And that's the lesson which we learn from this pasuk. It's interesting that the Medrash brings out in by the Bris Bein Habsoim, when the Avraham Avinu was shown the whole vision of the future of Klal Yisrael, he was shown Eima Chashecha Gedola Nofeles Olav. He was shown all the periods. Eima is Galus Bavel, Chashecha is Galus Yovan, Gedola is Galus Poos or Madai, Nofeles is Galus Ed, Olav is Galus. He was shown all the periods of exile of Klal Yisrael, all the periods. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu then turned around to him and said as follows: this is the situation of the future of Klal Yisrael. If they keep the Torah and the Beis HaMikdash, then they will be saved from Golus and Gehinnom. But if they break the first two, which of the last two do you choose? Do you choose Golus or do you choose Gehinnom? Avraham Avinu was asked. At the end of the day, he decided that he would choose Golus as against Gehinnom. The Vilna Gaon asks an obvious question. Of course, exile is better. Exile, there can be a Geula. Gehinnom is almost final and terminal. What does it mean here? He waited the whole day. Said the Vilna Gaon, Avraham Avinu could not sell Klal Yisrael into exile unless he himself knew that he was able to withstand all the difficulties that they're going through. At the end of the day, Avraham Avinu said, I choose Golus. Of all the difficulties that I see in front of them, if Klal Yisrael do not keep the Torah and the Beis HaMikdash, meaning the Kedusha and the Tower of the Beis HaMikdash, then I choose Golus. Why did he delay? He built himself up with such resilience that he himself said, I would be able to withstand all the difficulties which I'm going through, which Klal Yisrael will go through. And that's the nature of, afilu tomnu pachli, even though I'm in a pach, but nevertheless, I can withstand it all. I can manage it. I can overcome these difficulties. And that's the tremendous emunah, tremendous bitochen, which people have in the periods of Golus. We see the beautiful letter which has just come out now of someone who was in the Warsaw ghetto, and he writes, a letter was found, I think, just recently of a person there. I think later he was killed. And in the letter it says as follows: Ribbono Shel Olam, last week I lost my daughter and my wife, and a few weeks ago I lost all my family. I have nothing left. But Ribbono Shel Olam, you should know, of all the difficulties I'm going to, I'm not leaving you. I have you. I'm staying by you. I will keep strong by my emunah. That's the letter which was written. This most beautiful letter. Even though I lost everything, and maybe he was killed as well at the end, I'm holding by you. I'm strong by you. And that's the lesson Avraham Avinu said at the end of the day. I'm able to withstand all the difficulties. And therefore, but I'm going in this path, but I know you know everything that's going on about me. I'm in a pach, but you will help me. And the promise we see in Perek Kuf Kaf Dal is that eventually the trap will snap. Look at the next pasuk Hey. Habeit yamin urei. I look to the right and I see ve'eni makir. No one recognizes me. No one knows me. No one's there for me. Avad manos mimeni. Refuge has been left me. I have no refuge. Ein doresh lenafshi. No one is asking after me. What lesson do we learn from this pasuk? My boys say it's so relevant to our times. Certainly David HaMelech had his finger on the pulse as to what we're going through in our times. Ein doresh lenafshi. Who's asking about Klal Yisrael? Who's worried about Klal Yisrael? 3 or 4 days after Simchas Torah, the world was in support of Israel. And then all of a sudden the whole world turns around. Demonstrations in Berlin, in Washington, in New York, in Flatbush in London, all for Hamas. What happened here to all the support? All of a sudden everything turns over. Ein doresh lenafshi. All the decisions which were made in the United Nations. We can rely on nobody. Can't rely on America. We have to rely on Ribbono Shel Olam. And that's the lesson here. No one recognizes. Ein doresh lenafshi. There's no one there for me. And that's the situation of Golus. Meaning recognizing that I must turn to Ein el milvado. I don't have anybody else. That's the lesson of prayer. All I have is Ezreinu b'Shem Hashem. That's all I have in these situations that I'm going through now. In 1934, with the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany, they came to power, and there was a tremendous worry, of course, throughout the world. Reb Leib Chasman, who was the Rosh Hashiva Zecher Tzadik of Chevron Yeshim, said the following maimah. I heard what I'm about to tell you now from the great Gaon Reb Michal Yehuda Lefkowitz. After one of the piguim in Yerushalayim, he came to the Yeshiva Pachad Yitzchak, and he said the following maimah over from Reb Leib Chasman. He explained exactly what happened. On the rise of power of Germany in 1934, the rise of Nazi power, he turned around and said as follows: the situation that we're going through now, meaning the wars of Gog and Magog, is really all inside Perek Beis and Tehillim. Let me read out the first few psukim too, and you'll see what I mean. Rab Chasman said, the difficulties of the rise of the Nazi power is here inside. Lama rogshu goyim. Why do all the nations gather together? It's talking about Gog and Magog. Umim yagurik. And all the nations come around and they talk heaven and vanities. Yisyatsu malchei oretz. All the nations will come together. V'roizdim noistu yachad. And all the princes will will gather. Al Hashem be'al Mashiach. They will go against the Almighty and His anointed ones. Meaning, the fight of Gog and Magog is a fight against the Almighty. Ask Reb Chasman, how can you possibly make a fight against the Rebbeinu Shalom? I hear fighting human beings. What does it mean, Gog and Magog, their war is against the Almighty? What does it mean? And Reb Chasman explained as follows. The Medrash there in Perek Beis in the Yalkut brings down into him the following explanation. Esav called Cain a fool. Why? Esav said as follows: if Cain wanted to control the world, what he should have done is also killed Shais as well. There was another son of Adam Rishon. If he wanted to take control, why didn't he kill Shais as well? Meaning, Esav said, I will kill Yaakov and I will kill everybody. I will get Yaakov, or when my father dies, I will kill them all. In other words, I won't hold anybody. I won't leave anybody out. I will kill Esav and all his family. Paro called Esav a fool in the following way. Paro said to Esav, you waited too long. By the time it came to the time that Yitzchak had died and he tried to kill, there was a whole Shevet, there was a whole Mishpacha, a whole family there. It was too much for him to kill. And therefore Paro said to Esav, you're a fool. What I will do is I will get them when they're born. I will take all the children and throw them in the sea, throw them in the water. Meaning, Paro went a stage further than Esav. You waited too long, Esav. I will get them when they're born. Haman turned round and said to Paro, you're a fool. You took only the boys, you left all the girls. It's not enough, you didn't go far enough. Not me. Haman turned round and said, I will go after everybody, men, women and children, everybody that there is. Gog and Magog turned around and said to Haman, you're a fool. Why are you a fool? Why are you going after them? Go after him. Attack him. Get him. The question is, asked Reb Chasman, how can you make a war against the Almighty? How can you fight Hashem? How can you fight Hashem? Reb Chasman explained as follows. They will pull us away from Avodas HaKodesh. They will pull us away from any care and interest and scrutiny we have in mitzvahs. They will pull us away. And that's the assimilation in America. The assimilation is, it's Al Hashem, to pull us away from there. Said Reb Chasman, but the Rebbeinu Shalom will give us decrees which will insist that we have no choice, we have no other refuge but to turn to the Almighty. And that's the reason for the Nazi Party, said Reb Chasman. The reason is we will have to turn to Hashem. We have no alternative. That's the nature of our difficulties. And that's what it means, Ein li makir, I have nowhere else to go. Meaning the decrees which we're going through now are decrees which are Al Hashem Mashiach. I mean, they try to pull us away completely. But the idea is the decrees are so harsh that we can't possibly manage without Hashem. We can't survive in this difficulty. And that, I think, is what we're going through in our situation. The decrees are like this so that we will turn to Him and ask Hashem, we have no other help. How can we possibly manage if the Rebbeinu doesn't help us? And that's the nature of this Pasuk here, Pasuk Hey. Pasuk Vov, Zo'akti elecha Hashem, amarti ato machsi, chelki be'eretz hachayim. Look carefully at this pasuk, Rabbi Yisrael. It's a beautiful lesson which comes out of it. Zo'akti elecha Hashem, I called out to you, Hashem. Amarti, I said, ato machsi, you are my support. You are my defense. You are my salvation. Chelki be'eretz hachayim, my portion is in the land of the living. What is the lesson that David is teaching us here, which is so relevant in our times? I think it's on the word ator machsi. You are my support. The definitive, the definite side. It's not a doubt by me, not a suggestion. It's a vadai. It's a situation of positive, definite situation. Ator machsi. You are my help. Remember, Chaim Brisker, Zecher Tzadik V'ach, used to say, you don't daven off a meglichkeit, of a possibility. You daven off a vadai, a positive. Ki ato shomer tefillas, ato gibolya, mechalka chayim ato, ato. If you stress the word ato, it defines clearly the relationship. The relationship is, I'm dependent, ato machsi. The word machsi, actually, you have it also in Shema Koleinu. Chus berachem oleinu, says the Vilna Gaon. Chus means from the word yichus. I have a connection to you. I have protexia. I have a connection. I'm intimate with you. Chus. Rachem is a general situation. And therefore, chus, the savers HaKadosh Baruch Chus means I have a connection with you. I am Segula. I am a part of your mishpacha. I'm close with you. Rachem means the rest of the world, but there's something more in part of this. Klal Yisrael have a unique relationship with Him. We are the Am Segula Goy Kodesh with HaKadosh Baruch. Atom, it's you, Hashem, and that's the force. The force is the positive side which comes out of it, and that's what the lesson is which we're coming out from. Atom Machsi, and that's the nature of it. It's interesting. I think maybe, isn't that the lesson which we learn from Eliyahu Hanavi on Har HaKarmel? Remember, he turned around and said to the people, Im Lashem, Lashem, Im La Baal, La Baal. Make up your mind. If you want to go to Hashem, if you want to go to Baal, go to Baal. The question is always asked, how can Eliyahu turn around to people and say, go to Baal? Go to Baal? What do you mean there's nothing to Baal? And the answer is as follows, but don't sit in the middle. Don't be parva. Either be milchik or be fleshik. Don't be on the fence. Don't be either one way. You must be definite. You must be, if you're for Hashem, for Hashem. If you're for Baal, for Baal. If you go to Baal, then you'll come straight back, because you'll realize there's nothing there. But if you stay in the middle, if you're a middleman, if everything is compromised and nothing is very definite by you, then you'll get caught out. And that's what Eliyahu was pushing them in. Be decisive, be clear, be definitive. If you're for Hashem, for Hashem. If you're for Baal, go to. But one thing is for sure, don't sit on the fence in the middle. Go to Baal, because once you've gone to Baal, you'll come straight back again. That's the answer behind it. And that's the nature of it. The vados, the definitive, the positive side to it, the assurance, which is so vital inside prayer. Maybe that's also the reason why, when we come to Shemona Esrei, as soon as we begin Shemona Esrei, we mention our criteria quite clearly. I say, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Velokei Yaakov. That's a definitive statement of support. Elokei, says Rav Dessler, refers to a covenant, a bris. Because Avraham Avinu excelled in kindness, the Rebbeinu Shalom made a covenant, a bris with Avraham Avinu, and said, I will support you and your family. Elokei Yitzchak means, because Yitzchak was so powerful and so overwhelming and excelled in Yirah, I will make a covenant with Yitzchak and also in his family. Similarly with Yaakov, because he was so strong in the middle of emes, of truth, I will hold out for you. Meaning there were three covenants. It doesn't say Elokei, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. It says Rav Dessler, Elokei, it was an exclusive covenant for Klal Yisrael, a clear, definite support by Avraham Avinu because of his chesed. Similarly with Yitzchak, but they were all, each one was exclusive. Each one was unique. And that's my identity. My identity is, I come to you, Hashem. I come to you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's the nature. I am vadai, part of your family. I belong to you. And that's almost like my Tudat Zahut, my identity when I come in front of him. It's interesting, before you start Shemona Esrei also, I remember hearing from Bab Volba, Zecher Tzadik Lefracha, in the Mir Yeshiva, used to say also, before you come to Shemona Esrei, you say, Tzur Yisrael, Kuma Be'ezras Yisrael, Fedeichon Emech Yisrael, Hashem Tzvos, Bochat Hashem Goal. You say the word Yisrael 5 times in Tzur Yisrael. Why? Because that's who I am. I'm a member of Klal Yisrael. I am chaviv to you. I'm a favorite to you. I'm part of you. Yisrael, I am part of Klal Yisrael. That's my, and then I start Hashem Tzvos Haitiv. Then I begin Shemona Esrei. Who are you? I'm a member of Klal Yisrael. I'm a vadai. I'm clear about my status. And that's a positive side to it. And therefore, Ator Machsi, David is telling us, in such times, you can't sit on the fence. You have to be clear with your loyalties. You have to be clear in your devotion. I know where my loyalties are, and I know I'm from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ator Chelk Be'eretz HaChayim. I'm with the Rebbeinu Shalom, and that's my clarity and my clear assurance of where I am, where I'm holding. Posuk Zayin, Hakshiva El Rinasi, pay attention and listen carefully to my call. Ki da'aloisi ma'oid, I am very, very poor, I'm very feeble. Hatzileni me'rodafai, save me from my enemies, ki omsu mimeni, for they are too powerful for me. What lesson of prayer is David HaMelech teaching us here, especially which is so relevant in our times? What is the main word on this pasuk? Lanias daiti, I think, is ki da'aloisi ma'oid. Pay attention to him, because I feel very feeble. When a person comes to prayer, he has to come not necessarily as a gavel rabba with great support and great backing. I come as an oni, my hachno, my humility before him. I come with HaKadosh Baruch Hu with a certain request of, I'm asking you for help. I need your support so much. The da'aloisi ma'oid is a mindset you do. You don't come to prayer with all your backing and all your wealth and all your background which you have. You come, as the Chofetz Chaim mentioned before, and there's no one else who can help me, and I feel very feeble. And that feeble modesty, humility, is very important before prayer. That's the lesson which we're learning from here. In reality, Rabbi Isai, Chazal explained that is one of the reasons why, when we come to daven Shemona Esrei, we start first of all with Ezras. Ezras Avoseinu is a prayer where we really explain ourselves, the Moshe which is given in the Gemara in Brachos, of an Oni who is knocking on the door. He's knocking on the door and hoping that the king will answer. He knocks and waits, and the king answers and he opens the door. But you must straight away start your prayer. It's a definition of a poor man standing, help me, help me. All the expressions, it's an expression of anius, of a humility behind it all. And that's certainly also the reason why every Shemona Esrei always begins, the Ramchal brings down in Mesilas Yesharim Perek Yud Tes. Why does every Shemona Esrei begins with Hashem, Sfosai Tiftach, Ufi Yagi Telosecha. Hashem, Ida Lifnei Mi'ata Omed. Sfosai Tiftach, I cannot open my mouth. I'm so feeble, I'm so low, I can't even talk to you. Ufi Yagi Telosecha, but I must talk to you. I can't be quiet. Such a beautiful expression, the dilemma. The dilemma is the optimum stance in prayer. I'm coming to you because I can't even talk to you, but I must talk to you because you are Machal Kechayim B'Chesed, you are everything to me. And that's the nature of the prayer. Prayer is I can't, but I'm in a dilemma. I can't, and that dilemma is perfect. Now start Shemona Esrei, because if you have that mindset, you're ready to daven with tremendous kavanah, and that's the necessity which you have. The Daloisi Ma'od is the point here. Before we go any further, Rabbi Yisai, I'd like to recap on these 7 psukim. Before we go, the last pasuk is the finale, is the most beautiful pasuk, but I'd like to leave it for a minute and just go over the limudim that we have, make sure we get them clear. The first pasuk, David is saying here the profundity and the enormous power which there is, the tower of strength, the migdal ois in tefillah. Pasuk base is focus, koili el Hashem, the clarity. David is teaching us here how to daven, all inside the cave, behind the web, tremendous power of concentration and devekos in such circumstances. Pasuk Gimel is my connection I have you. I'm telling you exactly what's going on in my... I mean something which is current. Prayer has to be something which is on your mind, which you're thinking about. You know my path. It's not hefker. It's not coincidental. It's not so much something happened by the way. It's not. You know my path. You know. You are aware fully of what I'm going through, and I'm in a pach, and that is the nature certainly of God as Yishmael. It's difficult for me, but the pach will snap. Pasuk Hey is the... You can't rely on, there's no one else. There's no one else to help me. And I realize milvado. Machsi is my personal connection with you. I am a choice, I am a yingul, I am part of your mishpacha, chus from the Lashon Yichus. And Pasuk Zayin is Daloisi Ma'od, the reference to Anias and the humility before prayer. Now we come to the last pasuk, Rabbi Yisrael, which is a beautiful pasuk. I want to mention something which I think I've a little bit experienced, but Chasdei Hashem Yisbarach in Sefer Tehillim. If you look through Sefer Tehillim, there are expressions of tremendous disillusionment and great despair, but never ever does David leave us with that situation. Every perek, as far as I can see, always ends with an upbeat. You're never left with a situation of desperation. The end of the perek also, he lifts you up. You never find yiush at the end of a perek. You find great difficulties. Now look at the end of this pasuk, this perek. Of all the difficulties inside the cave, being pursued, 3,000 soldiers outside, in mortal danger, he's on the run, and this is Klal Yisrael in the times of Bigzat the Mashiach. Now, listen to this last sentence, which I think is the most beautiful, beautiful sentence. It tells you exactly what the mindset should be in prayer when it comes to davening in the Chevlei Mashiach. Hoitziah mi masker nafshi. Take me out of this straitjacket. Masker nafshi. I'm locked in. I'm closed in. I can't move. As you mentioned previously, the pach. Why? The reason is as follows: that I can come out and thank you afterwards. My motive is to appreciate you and give praise to you afterwards. Righteous people will crown me. Why? Ki sigmala, that you have been good to me and you have cared for me. David is saying as follows: you know I want to get out of this difficulty, not to go off to Florida and sit in a deck chair or take it easy for the rest of my life. No. He was much more devoted. He was much more powerful than this. Because I'm a Yehudi, I want to thank you. What will happen? I will be a role model for everybody else. They will crown me and say, look what happened to David HaMelech. He was saved in the situation. I will be a role model for all of Klal Yisrael in the future, because you were kind to me and you looked after me. Therefore, for that reason, save me, Hashem, which is a beautiful point at the end. I'm not looking just that I can enjoy my life and spend it in an easy time. My purpose is a Yehudi. If you save me, Hashem, I will be a dugma ishit, a personal example for everybody else in the world. People will look at me and say, and crown me, because of me, I will be the example for everybody. Ki sigma aloi, but you were kind to me, you paid me back. What does the word gemul mean? Gemul means the payment, meaning I waited for you, I held on, I was patient, I didn't give up. I didn't lose my emunah. I didn't lose my bitachon. Because I waited for you, Hashem, and I was patient, and I knew the difficulties, but because you will pay me back for that. A gemul. Remember the pasuk at the end of Yud Gimel, which goes through all the tzoros of Klal Yisrael. Ad Ona Hashem Tishka. The last pasuk, V'ani b'chastecha b'tach Ashir al Hashem ki gomal olay. I will sing to Hashem, for He will pay me back. I mean, because I waited for Him, because I had the patience. Even though with all that's going on, nevertheless, Ribono Shel Olam, I waited for you, and because of that, I will be the role model. Such a beautiful, beautiful pasuk at the end. It's me. People look at me and see. I will give an example for everybody how to give thanks to the Ribono Shel Olam for my difficulties. You will look after me, and therefore everybody will recognize there's an example here. There's a role model that we can match here. Such a beautiful pasuk. That, Rabbi say, is a perek that we have here. The beautiful limud in which we can take out from here. But the last one is the prime pasuk, which Lanias Daiti comes out of it all. All the difficulties that a person is gamzul tova. In the end, I'll recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu, all the difficulties which we've been through. We will see the Yad Hashem in the end. Vay Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. I was thinking maybe that's the beautiful song which we sing at all the chasnas here in Eretz Yisrael. Such a beautiful song at the end. It's a pasuk in Yeshaya. V'omar bayom hahu. In the days when Hinei Elokeinu zeh kivinu v'yosh zeh Hashem nog. Hinei Elokeinu zeh kivinu v'yosh zeh Hashem kivinu nogila v'nismocha b'shuasa. We will rejoice and be happy in our salvation, which will come out at the end. And the time when the time will come, bayom hahu, and that time zeh Hashem kivinu. That is what I look for. That is what I anticipate. That is what I kivinu lo, because I waited for Him, and what will happen? Nagila v'nismocha b'shuasa. We should rejoice and celebrate in His salvation, which will come in Mitzvah Hashem b'korev. We will see the salvation l'haydei seshamecha b'yachtiru tzadikim ki simra l'loi. These are lessons which we take out of the perek. Such beautiful chizuk, but such full guidelines as well for tefillah during the times of B'yomos HaMashiach. Our prayers should be accepted b'rotzon u'b'cheinu v'chesed. Kol tov.